Good morning. I'm Yat Hei Jerry, and today I would like to introduce the patient reflective video with my groupmate PUI Hok Kam Alfred.
For me, my patient is Mr. Wong, and I will present the patient and applied biographical disruption theory by Michael Berry. And brief is summary the patient clinical and social history. First, my patient is a man in his early 50s. He had a stroke at age 40, about 12 to 13 years old. He was hospitalized for 20 days with left side weakness and altered gait and no loss of consciousness. He took antihypertensive, antidepressants, and antithrombotics, but has limited understanding of his medication. And before the stroke, he worked 12 to 13 hours daily in food and beverage, was ambitious, energetic, and enjoyed singing. He had little family time and wanted to start his own business. After the stroke, he lost his career and income, withdrew from friends, and felt ashamed of his reduced singing ability. His wife became his primary caregivers. He later finds support through the New King Society, that is the Sun Ginse, and a rehabilitation center and an aquatherapy group. He now exercises daily and manages his diets. For the illness experience, emotional and identity disruption after the diagnosis. When diagnosed, he felt sad, confused, hopeless, and uncertain about his future. The first year was the worst. He did not look in the mirror for a whole year because he couldn't face being a stroke patient. He engaged in negative self-talk, felt worthless, and hinted at suicidal thoughts. He experienced a big sense of loss. Lost chances, lost glory days. He felt behind his peers and said, I would have had my own business if not for my stroke. He's marked his condition by refusing a cane or wheelchair. From here, you can see, and withdrew from singing with friends. Gradually, he accepted his new reality, not having a choice but to be accepting, and now find purpose in organizing activities for other stroke patients. Like he will find a way to stay happy and enjoy the Chinese opera, cinema, or swimming. Okay, and so for the application of the biographical disruption theory, Berry argues that chronic illness disrupts a person's life trajectory, self-identify, and future plans. There are three main manifestations. First, lost personal independence. My patient went from self-reliant work um, to someone who cannot work and need his wife help. Second, change in the body image. He avoid the mirror, hit his gait, and refers mobility aids because his body become unfamiliar. Third, the destabilization of identity. His expected life story of success and his own business was shattered. He mourned a lost future, compared himself negatively to peers, and internalized the worthlessness. Berry also emphasizes certainty, which my patient felt strongly preventing him from planning or hoping, and why this theory explains his response. His depression, withdrawal, and shame are not personal failing, and they are predictable response to a shaded life story. And the refusal to look in the mirror is not vanity, it's a sign of failed identified integration. His eventual adaptation through the community organizing represent the partial narrative reconstruction. Healthcare should support patients in rebuilding their life story and not just treating physical symptoms. And to also acknowledging this disruption can reduce the self-blame and improve the mental health outcome. Yep. So to conclude, biographical disruption explains his emotional pain, identity loss, and masking behaviors. And understanding his response through this theory help us see that a stroke is not just damage to the brain, it is damage to a person's entire life narrative. And that's all my part. And for the part A, and I will pass the time to Arthur to present about the part B.
Hi, I'm Arthur. For Part B, I will apply the buffering hypothesis by Sheldon Cohen and Thomas H.B. Will to explain how social support influence Jerry's stroke patient's illness experience. First, the buffering model. Social support acts as a reserve that enables the individual to cope with stress more effectively when stress is high. This means support matters most during a major life crisis, like a stroke at age 40. Support does not remove the stressor. It changes how the person perceives these threats and how they cope. A critical point, only when the type of supports match the needs produced by the stressful event will buffering occur. For example, emotional support helps with fear of death. Instrumental support helps with daily tasks. Informational support reduces uncertainty. The key measure is perceived availability of supports. The patient believes that help is there if needed, not just actual help received. Second, the direct effect model. Social support is generally beneficial during both non-stressful and stressful times. It plays a health-promoting role in its own rights. It works through stable positive experiences, belonging, regular social contact, and sense of identity. The key measure here is social network integration, how embedded the person is in a network and relationships. For Mr. Wong, even 13 years after his stroke, his community involvement continues to promote well-being, which fits the direct effects model as well. Cohen and Wills identify three main types, but the lecture also add a fourth, social companionship. Let me apply all four to Mr. Wong. First, emotional support, feeling cared for, loved, valued. Mr. Wong's wife provides meticulous care. She works part-time at night but cares for him during the day. This unconditional presence buffered his depressions. By evidence of he's happier, he feels supported. Second is instrumental supports, practical, tangible help. His wife accompanies him to all follow-up appointments. She manages daily tasks. The community offers affordable activities which reduce the financial burden. The third is informational supports, advice, guidance, knowledge. The New King Society gives talk on stroke, diet, rehabilitation through aqua therapy friends. He learned about the rehab centers, singing, dart, and drumming classes. This reduced I don't know what to do anxiety. Fourth, social companionship, sharing leisure activities. He swims weekly, plays darts, sings, and joins holiday parties. This restores normal social life and provides joy. How does buffering works? Through two pathways. Cognitive reappraisal. When the stressor hits, the person asks, how bad is this? With high perceived support, he thinks, I'm not alone. My wife and my friends will help. Threat is downsized. Without support, threat is magnified. Mr. Wong shifted from worthless to I can help others is classic reappraisal. And then behavioral coping. With support, the person takes constructive action. Mr. Wong now exercises daily, swims, and organizes activity for other stroke patients. Without support, he might have remained in avoidance and social withdrawal, which he initially did, disappearing from friends for a year. This theory fits Mr. Wong based for four reasons. First, high stress. Stroke at age 40 is exactly the kind of major life event where buffering is most detectable. Second, clear support sources. Wife, primary community organization. Secondary, peer group tertiary. Perceived support is present. He actively engaged with his wife and community. He believes help is available. That perceived availability is the critical variable for buffering. Fourth, outcome consistent. He did not develop persistent major depression. He adapted, found new roles, and say he's happier now than before. Not because the stressor went away, but because support buffered their impact. Empirical stroke study confirmed that perceived social supports improve functional outcomes and community participation. And here's the table of how the buffering hypothesis apply on Mr. Wong. Let me summarize the patient's benefits. Emotional buffer. Despite not looking in a mirror for a year and hinting at suicidal thoughts, he did not completely collapse. His wife's unwavering presence was critical. Cognitive reappraisal. He changed his self-perception from worthless to valuable because he both give and receive supports. Behavioral change. He moved from withdrawal to active coping, daily exercise, swimming, community participation, organizing activity for others. Stressor remained. He still cannot work, his body is still disabled, but he found new meanings. That is essence of offering support does not remove the stressor. It prevents the stressor from destroying the person. In conclusion, Cohen and Will's buffering hypothesis explain why Mr. Wong, despite a devastating stroke, was able to rebuild a meaningful life. His wife and community did not cure his disability, but they gave him the resource to cope. For nursing practice, these remind us to assess perceived supports and to mobilize family and peer network because the right type of support at the right time can save a patient's future. After discussing Mr. Wong's case, it's time to discuss my patient, Ashmin's case. My patient, Ajmin, is a 76 years old Pakistani woman. She has hypertension for 6 years, high cholesterol for 6 years, and chronic thigh pain from a femur fracture 5 years ago. She lives in a subdivided flat in Shao K1 with her son and daughter-in-law, Sandy. Before coming to Hong Kong, she took Extor and Nexium for her blood pressure, but she often felt upset about side effects. Her leg pain limited her mobility. She could only walk 10 minutes and need a wheelchair. After arriving in Hong Kong, her family brought her to the FMC public clinic. She stopped taking Nexium on her own because she had no stomach pain. She also stopped her cholesterol medication because it made her vomit. Even though she reported this to the doctor, no change was made. Because there was no quota at FMC, they switched to private clinic. Sandy forced her to walk every day, which improved her walking from 10 to 20 minutes. However, she cannot access the NGO because of a long slope to the NGO. During Ramadan, she eats high-calorie food at night and sleep only 2 hours, which disrupts her blood pressure control. She will return to Pakistan soon, and her family worries that the oily, strong flavored food there will worsen her health. To understand why Edgemond sometimes seeks help and sometimes does not, I'll use the help-seeking behavior framework by David Mechanic and Irving Zola. Mechanic give us 9 determinants that affect whether a person seek medical help. Things like how visible the symptoms are, how serious the person perceives them to be, their tolerance for discomfort, competing prioritize like family or regional, and the opportunity cost of getting care. Zola added 5 triggers that finally push someone to act, such as an argument with a family member, interference with social life, being told by others to seek help, fear of losing physical function, or setting deadline to report symptoms. Together, these explain why admin decisions, both to seek and not to seek help, are rational, not irrational. Let me apply mechanics determinant to admin. First is visibility of symptoms. She stopped Nexium because she had no stomach pain. She stopped cholesterol medication because it made her vomit, and she thought she was cured. She acts on what she can see and feel, not biological numbers. Second is perceived seriousness. For her, the vomiting from cholesterol medication felt more serious than the high cholesterol itself, so she prioritized avoiding side effects over preventing a future heart problem. Third is disruption. Her leg pain wakes her at night and limited her walking. That disruption is why she agreed to Sandy daily exercise. It's directly improved her quality of life. So let us skip some that is not critical. Fifth, tolerance threshold. She cannot tolerate medication that cause vomiting or memory loss. Once the threshold is crossed, she stops taking it. That is a rational self-protective response. And then eighth is competing prioritize. Ramadan is a religious duty. Fasting and praying come before strict blood pressure control. She sleep only 2 hours at the daytime and eats high-calorie food before sunset. This is not a non-adherence. It is a legitimate cultural priority. And the ninth is opportunity costs. The long slope to NGO means climbing it costs more energy than she can spare, so she missed free health checks. Similarly, no quota at the FMC forces her to pay for a private clinic, a high financial cost. Both are opportunity costs that discourage seeking help. Now let's talk about Sola's 5 triggers. Sanctioning by others is the strongest trigger for admin. Sandy forced her to check her blood pressure, eat clean food, and walk every day. Without Sandy, admin would seek much less help. Perceived threats to physical functioning. She sees that her leg pain is making her walk less, which leads to muscle atrophy. That threat motivates her to walk with Sandy. Temporizing of symptomatology. She reported her vomiting to doctor but did not demand an immediate change. Instead, she planned to bring it up at the next appointment. She set a deadline that's temporalizing. Occurrence of an interpersonal crisis. When her blood pressure is high, she argued with Sandy. That conflict pushed her to check her BP more regularly, perceived interference with social relationship. Her leg pain stopped her from meeting friends in Eldridge Bay Park. That loss of social contact makes her more willing to exercise so she can rejoin them. So, what we have learned, not seeking help is often rational. Stop a medication that makes you vomit is logical. Avoiding a long slope to an NGO is practical, not lazy. Seeking help is often triggered by others. Sandy is the main reason admin monitor her health at all. Competing prioritize. Like Ramadan override health. We must respect that. Structural barriers become personal barriers. No FMC quota, broken lifts, narrow roads. These are not admin's faults, but they directly shape her help seeking. For nursing practice, this means we should never simply label a patient with a non-compliance. Instead, we should ask, what are their barriers? What's competing the priority do they have? Who is sanctioning them? And how can we reduce opportunity costs? Admin decisions, both seek and not to seek help, makes perfect sense once you understand her social, culture, and structural environments. That is the power of mechanic and Solar's theory.
Hi, I'm Jerry. For part B, I will apply the social determinants of health framework to my groupmate Alfred presents. Admin. Social determinants of health are the condition in the environments where people are born, live, work, and age. Things like housing, physical environment, health service, access, and culture. These factors have a powerful impact on health outcomes, often more than medical care itself. Ajman is a 76 years old Pakistani woman with hypertension, high cholesterol, and chronic thigh pain. I will show you how social determinants, not personal failing, create major barriers to her health management. First, the socio-economic status. Ajman's son worked as a delivery person. In 2024, about 61% of delivery workers earn less than 10,000 and 50,000 Hong Kong dollars a month. This means the family has a low income. They cannot afford long-term private medical care, so they rely on the public system. This is what the material explanation calls out. Low income directly limits access to health resources. Second, the housing. Three people live in a divided flat with only one room, a toilet, and a kitchen. This is overcrowded, an upstream structural condition because there is no space for exercise. Ajmin's leg muscle have atrophied. That is a downstream health consequence. Overcrowding also means no privacy and poor sleep quality, which makes her hypertension harder to control. Third, the food security. The Shaogei Wild Market has closed, reducing the number of affordable fresh food options nearby. This puts Ajman at risk of food insecurity. She may not always be able to buy the vegetables and white meat she needs for her low salt, low fat diet. Fourth, the social environment. An NGO in Taiwan provides free monthly health checks and activities for ethnic minorities, but it is far from Ajman homes. And he has to climb a long slope to get there, impossible with her wheelchair. This is assessed inequally. The surface exists, but she cannot reach it, so she misses out on health screening and social support. Fifth, the physical environment. The lift on Agent floor has been broken for a long time. She has to walk down one floor to use another lift, but with her leg pain and muscle weakness, that is a real barrier. This discourages her from going out at all. It is a classic upstream determinant, a building maintenance issue that directly harms her health. The roads near her home are narrow, unfriendly to wheelchairs. Even the journey to the public clinic is difficult. This physical barrier makes her feel trapped at home. Sixth, the health service access. Ajman cannot get an appointment at the family medical center. There is no quota available. This is a structural barrier created by the government resources allocation. She has to pay for a private clinic instead, and this is a clear health inequality. In equity, a low-income elderly woman cannot access timely public care, so she must spend money she does not really have. This situation also illustrates the inverse care law. Those with the greatest health needs, the elderly, chronic disease, low mobility, have the poorest access to care. Okay, finally, the cultural, a very important social determinant. Ramadan from 17th February to 18th March. Ajman fasts during the day and eats high-calorie food at night. She sleeps only 2 hours at night and naps during the days. This disrupts her blood pressure and cholesterol management. But this is a legitimate religious practice, not non-adherence. The SDH framework respects cultural practices as legitimate health-shaping forces. Homesickness. She misses Pakistan and will return there when her visa expires. Her family fears her diet will worsen because Pakistani food is often oily and strong favorite. This affects her future health planning. The language barrier. She speaks Pashto, not Cantonese or English. This limits her ability to understand health information and describe her symptoms to doctors. Okay, so the lay beliefs about medication. She stopped taking Nexium because she had no stomach pain. She stopped the cholesterol medicine because it made her vomit. This is symptom-based logic, common in many cultures. From a biomedical field, this looks like long compliance, but from a sociologist field, it is a rational response based on how she experiences her body. So, to conclude, Ajman's health problems are not 100% personal failings. She's not lazy, ignorant, or difficult. Instead, social determinants, low SES, overcrowded housing, food insecurity, inaccessibility, the NGO, broken lifts, narrow roads, lack of public clinic quotas, and cultural practices create major barriers to her health management. These are health inequities, avoidable unfair differences. They are not natural or inevitable. Improving Agreement health requires the structural changes to better the public housing, working lifts, accessible NGO location, and enough public clinic quotas for elderly patients, individually behavior change alone will never be enough. That's for the part B. Thank you.